2, 3, 4, 5.
Uno.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Iliana Limon-Romero here with Alicia DelGallo, ready to talk all things soccer. We've got Orlando City, Orlando Pride, OCB, and Copa America to talk about this week. Awful lot. We are taking your reader questions. You can reach us via Twitter, tweet at OSLions if you've got any other questions. We will check back one last time before the end of the show. So we are giving you overtime, extra time, stoppage time. Get your questions in.
We know how you guys love stoppage time.
Apparently so for this club. All right, let's look back at this week before we get started through a long list of reader questions. We very much appreciate those already rolling in. So, big weekend, Orlando Pride first. We can start off with them.
Right. They struggled on the road.
Struggled on the road, disappointing 2-0 loss at FC Kansas City. Thoughts on what happened?
They were missing a lot of people. First of all, they were missing their national team players, and then also Sarah Hagan and Kristen Edmonds got sick during the game. So you talked to her earlier today?
Yeah, we got an update on Kristen Edmonds was out with a hip pointer. Sarah Hagan got sick during the game, as mentioned. Really surprising.
Yeah.
Fine during warm-ups, and then in the first 10 minutes of the match just suddenly felt ill, gutted it out for another 15 minutes, and then they went ahead and subbed on Christina Birkenrode, rookie,
new one, yeah.
brand new rookie,
brand new,
new signee, came on to try to help the team hold, possession, and it was tough. It wasn't really bad performances per se. This was just a group that had not worked together. Good news for the Pride. Kristen Edmonds and Sarah Hagan were back out training today.
Oh, that's good.
So that's a positive development for them. Those are players who are not getting called up and who will be in there for the long haul. Key veterans, it's important to have them in there. We'll get more some questions on the Pride and look back at how their performance is and maybe look ahead to how they might fare in the coming weeks. Orlando City. It was looking a little grim.
It was looking very grim for a while there. They pulled out another gritty last few minutes, last seconds performance to get the draw, but they were down 2-0. And the big turning point was, of course, the penalty kick seen around the world. David Villa slipping and sending that ball high into the stands. And after that point, they kind of picked up the energy. They were playing with a bit more urgency and were able to equalize.
All right, so we have one quick reader note we wanted to share. Go ahead, Alicia, explain this to us.
We want to give a shout out. I saw this earlier today, and I thought it was just hilarious about the David Villa's kick. We had at Anakin, Anakenn, tweet out time lapse shows Vila's ball in orbit, and she photoshopped an Orlando Sentinel story and photo that was sent out there.
Yeah, all the way to bars.
Ball. So I thought that was pretty funny. I want to give her a shout out because that was a good one.
That was a clutch move.
Yeah,
I think it had to feel cathartic for Orlando City fans, but players, fans, everyone, because David Villa throughout the game was leaning on the refs quite a bit, really pushing to get calls go his way. Finally gets that opportunity, and to see him slip like on a banana peel was pretty amusing.
I mean, which, by the way, Orlando City was obviously, relieved when he slipped, but didn't think it should have been a penalty in the first place. Coach Adrian Heath was very clear about that in the post-game press conference, saying, did anyone here think that was a penalty? It wasn't a penalty. He thought Seb, fell on the ball, and that was that, and it shouldn't have been a penalty call in the first place. So they were relieved, but felt, justice.
Justified, stirred up, energized, and no doubt, and I think it's highly unusual because David Villa is the kind of player who will absolutely always connect on that kind of play.
I think I saw on the TV. All of you guys were watching at home, so I'm sure you saw it too. But there was a graphic of where his penalty kicks go, and the saves, and there was one red X of all the other ones.
So, the next graphic is going to have the red X way up at the top. It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be way up there. Anyway, Taylor Twellman, veteran, former player, and commentary, analyst there, said he'd never seen anything like it. So I think it's pretty amusing.
And I saw him go into the locker room to talk to Adrian after the game, by the way.
Oh, very interesting. All right, so let's get started with reader questions, our favorite part of the show. You can hit at OS Lions on Twitter right now. If you get them in time, we will absolutely answer them at the end of the show. So, starting up first, Orlando City SC Brazil, blog Orlando City, one of our favorites, longtime viewer.
Hey.
Going by what Kaká said about the team making the playoffs, did Orlando do enough to, quote, make the playoffs? This was the playoff stretch, the 3 games in 8 days. Did they do enough?
So, what's funny is that Kaká said, if we get these wins, we're going to make the playoff. If we don't and we continue to lose, then we don't deserve to make the playoffs. And they kind of did in the middle. Like, I think they did enough to give their confidence a boost, to get momentum going their way. Now they're heading into a break. They can rest, regen, and they will, I think they did enough to still have hopes for the playoffs.
Yeah. They didn't hurt themselves, but they didn't seal it either. The thing about the East is so crowded. You go on a 3 or 4 game win streak, you're in command. Yeah. You're in a great position, and they're still waiting for that 3 or 4 game win streak. They didn't knock themselves out of contention,
right?
But
they didn't win all of those games like Kaká was hoping they would, to give them that, like, yes, we're gonna make it feeling.
Right. So it will be very interesting to see the next round of games. I think you're going to have some key players back, maybe not necessarily Kaká, but some other players back, and they're going to need a surge.
Yeah.
Another question from Orlando City SC Brazil at blog Orlando City. What do you think of Breck Shea starting at left wing and the replacement at the half? Was he not performing there as well? So some insight on Breck Shea and where he played, how he performed.
Yeah, so Breck Shea typically starts at left back on defense, but throughout most of his career, he was a winger, and he was moved up because of they're missing so many players for this game that they needed to make some changes to the lineup, and one of those changes was to move Breck up to left wing to strengthen the attack and put Luke Bowden in at left back. But at halftime, or was it at halftime or just after halftime, Breck was moved back to left back, and that wasn't a performance move. That was because they brought Carlos Rivas in and put him at the wing to strengthen the attack, and then moved Breck back to left back.
Yep, he subbed on, and Bowden came out at that point, and that was the retooling. I think a lot of fans were very excited to see that kind of lineup. There was a really warm response for the direction that Adrian Heath went, just shaking up the lineup, moving Bowden in there, obviously giving him that opportunity, and then also using Breck in a more attacking mentality, and it did seem to work well for them.
But the movement also shows that when you want to get fresh legs on the attack, Breck is still the preferred left back over Bowden.
There you go. All right, one more question from Orlando City SC Brazil at blog Orlando City. Molino in the middle. Thoughts? Can he be a replacement for Kaká? Does he have the skills to be a playmaker? So Kevin Molino, obviously, as you wrote, responded extremely well to being benched. What do you think about his viability in the middle?
I like him. I like him in the middle. I think he did well. And as far as being a playmaker, I think he's had that ability all along. It's not anything new for fans who were following the team back when they were in USL. They saw how much of a playmaker he could be. Came off of a long injury, didn't play last year, and now has been getting back in the swing of things. And so you're starting to see the Kevin Molino of old. And I think you saw him, even though there were ups and downs in the games, there were lags of energy, you still saw the potential, the playmaking potential of Molino. I mean, goal and an assist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always been the long-term vision when they first formed this MLS roster. The thought was anytime Kaká was called up, out due to injury, anytime he just needed some rest because there's a long MLS season, the thought was that Kevin Molino would be that person, that he could come in and step in and do that. So I don't think their confidence in him has waned at all.
No.
All right, next question, Trey Helwig, at Trey Helwig. Any concern for the number of off-the-ball yellow cards so far this season?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Off-the-ball yellow cards, meaning dissent, arguing. The arguing that has been going on is a huge concern. It was a huge concern last year, and the club implemented additional rules and fines. So if they deem that a player's yellow or red card was, flagrant and shouldn't have happened, then the club itself will fine the players additionally. So yeah, that's definitely a concern. It was something that it seemed like they had in better control early on in the season. In the past few games, I think the frustration from the 6-game winless streak kind of set in, and they've just really been pushing and gritty in these games to get a result, and you're seeing that spill over into their attitude and behavior and yellow cards.
Surprise bonus from I don't know if it was really an off-ball yellow card, but Breck Shea, David Villa arguing at the very end of Orlando City's match at NYCFC actually bought them just enough time for that header. If that argument had not taken place and those cards had not been assessed, I don't know if play continues up until you get that header. So surprise benefit, but for the most part, yes, absolutely. It's problematic. Obviously, losing Christian Higuita for this game is not ideal.
No.
Adrian Heath wants his players to play aggressively, wants them to contest for the ball. He wants, the straight up 50-50 balls, the tackles that are just off target and misplaced, fine. But the frustration is problematic, and obviously it could have consequences for them later in the season. And I don't doubt that they will continue to work to address it. So, all right, one more question from Trey Helwig, at Trey Helwig. Did the ESPN article discussing NYCFC and OC first years affect the club/front office? So for those who didn't read it, let's recap. The ESPN article alleged that some meddling by club ownership for NYCFC and Orlando City had hindered the club's progress.
It basically, look, it was a straight-up commentary article. It was a hugely opinionated article saying that ownership for both of the new expansion clubs is intrusive and causing turmoil was the cause of all of the off-season turmoil with Orlando City, and is making fans impatient with the progress and making everybody impatient instead of giving the clubs the time that they need, the 3-year plan to execute the 3-year plans, things like that. But the article was straight opinion. There was no feedback, there were no quotes, there was no insight. He didn't talk to the front office of Orlando City or anyone down here. So, you don't typically see clubs and front office staffs react to commentary articles. If that were the case, then a whole lot of stuff would happen all of the time.
That's not necessarily a direction. I think that Orlando City has owned a lot of the challenges that were highlighted in that article. They talked about some of the miscues they had in the summer before they moved away from working with Armando Carnero and went with Adrian Heath and Phil Rollins playing a leadership role in really building the roster for the start of the season and making key decisions. I think there was a suggestion that Antonio Nocerino was not at all wanted by Adrian Heath, and I think that's a bit of a stretch. There certainly wasn't anyone interviewed to discuss that. And, I don't sense that
Adrian is not the type of coach that would allow someone to force him to insert a player into the team. He's said before he would quit before, in situations like that. He told Mike Bianchi on his radio show that he has in the past between, disagreements because he's not getting along with front office staff. So some of the language in that story might have been a little bit strong.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch. I think, look, ideally, Antonio Nocerino is working out a lot better than he has, that he's able to perform at a higher level. He's training really well. The game's hard. He's had a hard time adjusting. That's obvious. It's not ideal for him or Orlando City at this point. But I think, like I said, I think a lot of these things were a bit of a stretch. I also think it's a stretch to compare NYCFC so much to Orlando City. They're two very different clubs, two different ownership groups, two different styles and approaches. Obviously, both want to be successful, but NYCFC already fired their first head coach, are already putting pressure on their second head coach. They were coming off a 7-0 loss. And when you try to lump Orlando City in with that, I think it's quite different. So, it highlighted some interesting issues in the past. The front office is aware of how fans feel about the team and the club support. There's no doubt about that. So you do make an impact in that way. But other than that, I don't see any response to that article. I don't really think it makes any sense. All right. One more question from Trey Helwig at Trey Helwig. Why does Orlando City always play better in the second half once they've gone down?
Right. So I think this has a little bit to do with the style of play. They try to hold on to what they have this year. They play very conservatively when they have something, and they try not to lose it. So when you see them go down the 2-0, or when they go down in the second half, or time's running out, and they start to get a sense of urgency and pressure, and the energy, is pumped up, and they start performing, and they just, they stoppage time goals and heart stoppers for the fans. But I think it's a little bit of that, and a little bit of, just playing conservative, and some of the young guys on the team have that mentality too, where it takes being behind, and it takes pressure for them to perform at the level that they should. And it's something that it has to do with the consistency that they've been searching for all year, the different lineups that they've had to play with, and there's been a lack of overall consistency, and you're seeing it in the effort that's put out.
I think it's, they have nothing to lose at that point. They're already losing. So they gamble a little more. They're willing to take a few more risks, and that's something that translates. And you'll hear announcer after announcer say it on television broadcasts, and fans say it after games. You cannot leave before the final whistle. You cannot stop watching before the end of the game, because this team has those late game heroics in them. They're going to push until the end, and that's an admirable quality. I think just Adrian
need to start pushing from the beginning.
I think Adrian Heath would appreciate that if they actually did that. All right, one more question from Trey Helwig at Trey Helwig. Did Harrison Heath play well enough to start next week?
I think that he played well. He was by no means a weak spot on the team. I think everybody was pleased with his performance, especially for the first full 90 this season. He said he benefited a lot from playing with OCB this year, which was lacking last year. But I think by the next time, first of all, they don't play next week. So they play June 18th, and by then you're going to have Higuita back. It's possible that Kaká is back, and it's possible Darwin Sarin is back too. So I don't see him starting if those players come back. And also I think that you'd have at least Higuita back, so you would start Servando over H.
Yeah, but I think he showed something in that stretch, and I think gained a lot of confidence. It's a great game experience, and it's a reminder of the value of OCB, being able to have players train with Orlando City, train with OCB, play in OCB games, having that flexibility as opposed to the hesitation they had sending players all the way to Louisville last year. It was really hard to make that decision. When you loaned them, it meant a lot more. It was a lot harder trip and more of a challenge. So that you're starting to see the benefits of that, and that's in him, in players like Connor Donovan, who've been able to maybe not necessarily see time right now, but has been getting the minutes needed to be able to step in.
Right.
All right, so we have a question from a newcomer, and I apologize if I do not pronounce this right. Letooche, Letoocchay. Will club address STH disappointment in Lion Nation and Missing Perks. So these are the inaugural season ticket holders.
Right.
Who,
the new program.
Yeah.
So the new program, Lion Nation, was started, and it's basically extends membership to the club worldwide. People can pay a fee of about $99 a year, I believe it is, and they can get access to special behind-the-scenes things and stuff like that that typically was reserved for season ticket holders, and season ticket holders aren't very pleased that these perks are being extended to everyone, and that on top of that, they're losing some of the things that were promised to them when they became original season ticket holders. So I haven't spoken to the club directly about whether there's going to be any changes to the club, but I will definitely reach out and ask for everyone who is concerned about it. But I would just say continue talking to your ticket reps, right? Talk to your ticket reps, make the phone calls. If the club is anything, it is responsive to its fan base. So if enough people are upset about certain changes, it'll give them something to think about.
I would definitely say, as much as we love getting the questions via Twitter, is seeing them on Facebook, even the Reddit forums show a robust fan base. I think you're going to get your greatest response if you just pick up the phone and call your ticket rep. It lets them know that these inaugural season ticket holders are not pleased, and that would give them an opportunity to respond. So that's your best way to get an answer, I think. Next question, Chase Dunlap, at Chase Dunlap 21. Graduated on Sunday, was wondering how Breck and Luke's chemistry was working out during the first half. Well, congratulations on graduation.
Congratulations. I mean, I liked their chemistry. I thought it was good. But and I wouldn't have expected anything different when you're talking about those two players, really experienced, know each other well, and know the game that they're playing well. So I think they worked well together in the first half, and it could be something to go back to if needed again.
Yeah, I think it's always fun for longtime fans to see former USL tandems together. So you've got someone like Luke on the field, you got Kevin Molino on the field. It always feels great, and I think they are people who are committed to the club, and they just blend very well with some of the other players. And I think the Breck Luke example was one of those. It worked.
Yeah.
It did. All right, next question, Mark at emark21. What happened to the goals that used to be at the Citrus Bowl? They have been changed, and no one knows why.
So this is an interesting question because I read it and I didn't even notice. So I did. I'm looking into it. I've asked around. We think it might be for technological upgrades for the Copa America and the tournaments that are going to be at the Citrus Bowl. But I have reached out to get all of that confirmed and find out what's going on with the goals.
All right. Yeah, it's subtle, so I think it's something that you definitely can see from field level and from the support section, but it's not something you can see as easily from the press box or from television. So we will definitely be following up on that. All right. Next question. Kyle Meardo would not be the show without Meard's Beards. Thank you, Kyle, for the question. Any idea on how the Pride plan to cope when their players are international duty moving forward? The last game did not look pretty.
Right, so last week we kind of addressed this question a little bit and said that they would be just fine without their international players, and then they kind of weren't just fine, but they were missing many more players than just their international players. So do you want to talk about it a little
absolutely.
bit?
Yeah, Kristen Edmonds being out was a huge blow for them. I think her having the hip pointer injury, she's been extremely dynamic and versatile player who stepped in a lot of different roles, signed as a defender, but I don't even know if you could figure that out if you just watch their games because she's all over the place.
Yeah.
And then you also had Sarah Hagan, we mentioned it earlier, 25 minutes in, has to sub off and be replaced by a new signee, Christina Birkenhold, who was a draft pick. Yes, she's been training with them since preseason, but this was her first game action. It's a challenge. You're going up against FC Kansas City, two-time and WSL defending champions. No, they hadn't had a win. Yes, I know that sounds terrible, but they were one of the best defensive teams in the league, so it's hard to get any momentum. Possession was a challenge, and they were just chomping at the bit to get their first victory. So there were all kinds of reasons that the shape wasn't as strong. They were in a bit of disarray. Not through lack of effort, it was just new, different, a challenge. In a hostile environment, there were a lot of reasons it wasn't going to go their way.
Right.
But I think the perks are that you had a lot of players get minutes, which they needed. You had the opportunity of just getting that one out of the way. I think Aubrey Bledsoe played very well. She had a couple of big saves.
Which is huge because she's so young.
She is so young, and just coming in for Ashlyn Harris, just was the biggest question mark to me, and she came up with a couple of big saves. Tom Sermani called her performance flawless, which is always good. Flawless can't get much better than that. He said, the 2 goals were not her fault, and there was not much that she could have done in those situations, and that Ashlyn would have been in the same pickle. Like, there was just no way. They were not controlling possession very well at that point. So you're going to have a break. They get 2 weeks to train.
Yep.
Tom has shown
a break.
Tom has shown that he's been able to respond tactically, and I would fully expect them to spend a lot of time training with the group that they expect to have moving forward, and that should give them an advantage. They're losing more players to national team duty.
They're losing Jose Belanger.
Monica as well to Brazil, and then also Steph Catley reported to Australia. There is a chance some, if not all, those players could be back for the Western New York game.
Right.
Hard to see, how much time they're going to need after playing and training elsewhere. But at least the group that's back is going to have some time training. And the best news of all for them, Kristen Edmonds and Sarah Hagen are healthy and training again on the field. So if you have those players, you have the ingredients of something that you can definitely work with.
Right.
So,
cool.
All right.
Is that
next.
it? We're gonna
No.
We have more?
We have like 5-6 more questions.
Oh my goodness, we have a lot.
Very popular.
Yeah.
OCSC blog, at OCSC blog. How active will we be in the next transfer window? Any idea on where the club will want to strengthen the roster? And I'm going to go ahead and tack on the next question if we can. Orlando City pundit. How active will we be, should we be, when the transfer window opens in July? So it's a combination question. 2 questions. This second one, Orlando City pundit that we see right there. So transfer window, thoughts?
You'll definitely see some activity. I think we've reported already. You're going to see them try to sign defender Jonathan Teixeira from Stoke City. And this kind of goes into another question that I think is further down as well. But he can play center back and left back. So that's going to address some issues, depth issues that they have. And then there's been a bunch of rumors. I know everyone's concerned about Kyle Larin being traded, but I just don't see it happening in this window. The offer to transfer Larin in this window would have to be astronomical, because if they hold on to him until next year, they get 2/3 of the transfer fee. When if they were to trade him now, it would be half. So they'd be losing a lot of money, and then on top of that, it would be difficult to find a forward of his caliber for what they're paying him right now. So I don't think it's likely that he goes in this window. There's always a possibility, but other than that, I think Higuita is a stronger possibility. They might start looking at offers for him in the transfer window as well.
All right, so it's going to be an interesting summer then in the transfer window. Next question is from OCSC blog, at OCSC blog. What's the status of Nocerino going forward? It's clear he isn't a good fit with us. Could we trade him next transfer window? So Antonio Nocerino, thoughts?
I think it's a little too soon to trade him in this transfer window. I think that they're going to give him a little more time to see. I understand Julio came in and he's just at a level above Nocerino as far as working into the team and his match fitness. But even Julio said he's not 100% right now, and he still needs more time. So I think they're going to try to give Nocerino some more time. They need the depth at defensive midfield, especially if they're going to entertain thoughts of trading Higuita. So I think they need to give him a little more time and see if anything can come of it.
I don't know, when you have somebody of that caliber and that price range, selling while he's not performing at the highest level seems like that's going to be a challenge.
They would lose money.
It seems beneficial to go ahead and give him time to adapt, get into his second season, and then move him in the next mid-year transfer window if it's not working out. I think I've always said I think it's too early, and I know people have been very disappointed, but I just think it's too soon.
Yeah.
All right, next question, Orlando City SC Brazil. About Orlando Pride, are we too Alex Morgan dependent? Leanne Sanderson disappointed me. Thought she would be the go-to without Alex, but nah. Thoughts?
I don't think they're too Alex dependent. Obviously, they depend on her a lot, but I think that game had more to do with the other players missing as well, and losing that chemistry that they had built. Because when you take so many veterans and so many leaders off of the field for a team, you're going to it's going to fall into disarray.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Next question, Zach at Zachary_12. Why hasn't Leah Fortune seen any minutes for the Pride?
Leah Fortune was one of their final signees, and she just hasn't worked with the team as much as the other players. So I think that's why. I know. Have you spoken to her recently?
Yeah, I mean, I think she was excited to join the club, and she was a late acquisition. Tom is really driven to play this whole roster and to certainly get it ready. And even though NWSL takes a break during part of the Olympic period, there's a whole lot of time where the national players are out that extends beyond that, and he's going to want every option in the arsenal. And I think it's more of a fitness chemistry situation more than any sort of disappointment, and I would expect to see her soon.
All right, who's next?
All right, Roscoe at Macintosh Roscoe.
Hey, he's new too.
New guy, Roscoe. We know Breck Shea is more effective to the team further forward. Can we expect a left back to arrive in the window, or could Kevin Alston switch?
Okay, so this is the question that I was referring to before. So Jonathan Teixeira from Stoke City also plays left back. So, and Alston, he has the ability to play both as well. So the answer, I guess, is yes to both parts of that question.
Yeah, I don't know if the Breck Shea, it's going to be hard to say. There's been so much attention put on that, and I don't know if Breck Shea would be among the people who would want to move off left back because he still has aspirations with the U.S. men's national team. It certainly didn't happen in this Copa cycle, but he's still on the younger side of his development, and I think he's hoping that if he can have a strong run of play, that he'll still be in consideration for the next round of selection. It's out for the Copa. You can chalk that up in part to being, coming back from injury, but this whole left back experiment was all part of mirroring what his option might be with the national team. So I don't know that he's going to be willing to move away from that either, but we'll see how it works out. And I'm sure Adrian Heath has shown that he's open to putting people in the best position to be successful, and that he can make the tough call if that's what he feels needs to happen.
I think you're going to be building on the depth. You have someone like Alston who can switch both sides, and you bring in Teixeira, who can play center back and left back, and it gives you just more options. So if they find themselves in a situation like they were on Sunday with New York, they don't have to worry about pulling whoever they need to into different positions.
All right, so one more question from Roscoe at Macintosh Roscoe. Have we been surprised by Joe Bendick and the form he's shown? He's kept Orlando City in many games with some great stops. And does he need more protection?
100% he needs more protection. That's clear to see from anyone watching the games. But has he been a surprise? I think he's been a surprise to fans and not a surprise to the team. The team was expecting what he's been delivering. The goalkeeper coach for Orlando City worked with him at his previous team in Toronto and knew what he said. I know this kid. I know what he can bring. This is what you're going to get. They knew exactly what to expect from him. But I think fans weren't as familiar with him, so they were surprised. And especially after losing Tally Hall, everyone's upset. Everyone misses Tally. They weren't so quick to welcome Joe in with open arms, but he's definitely earned his spot in their hearts.
All right, yeah, he's come around. We're getting a lot more support from him at this point. All right, well, Alicia checks for any stoppage time questions at OS Lions.
I like that.
I know, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about Copa coverage. We're very excited that Copa Centenario is coming here, Copa America. You're going to see 3 matches at Camping World Stadium, and we will have all your coverage first up Saturday, Monday, Wednesday. The big capper, of course, is Brazil playing here Wednesday. Kaká was ecstatic about the opportunity to be playing in Copa America.
You couldn't help but smile, as he was talking about it. His smile was so big. He was
elated to be playing in this tournament for the first time. It's really hard to believe that there's something Kaká has not been able to do for the national team or done international soccer. And yes, he still needs to win an MLS championship. Don't tweet at me. I know. But other than that, internationally, it's really hard to imagine things that he hasn't accomplished. But this is a huge bucket list one for him, a big opportunity. And, now, of course, he's going to be doing it in his home stadium. He said he never had the opportunity to play for his country in his club's home stadium.
It'll be 2 firsts for him. He gets to check 2 things off his list.
So we fully expect a big crowd of Orlando City, Orlando Pride, OCB players and support staff there to cheer him on. They're very excited about this opportunity, and we're looking forward to providing tons and tons of coverage, yes, Orlando City and Orlando Pride are idle, but we are not
Right.
idle. Any other questions come in?
We had one more.
All right, one more question.
Fill it up.
All right.
What do we have to do to get Heath to play 2 up front from the start of the match instead of waiting to be down? So I don't think there's anything you guys can do to get Heath to play 2 up front. He's tried it before. I think the team, you need that one strong forward, someone to step up to show that they deserve to, or they can play 2 up front, but I don't see it happening, especially when Kaka's back on the team, he's playing so far forward that sometimes it can look like that. It can look like 2 up front, and that's kind of the angle that they're going with. So I don't think you're going to see it too often, but maybe when Kaka isn't around, you could see it with Julio stepping up into that role a little bit. So what do you guys need to do to see 2 up front? Maybe root against Kaka being on the field, but I don't think anyone would want to do that.
Cheer for Brazil in the Copa so he goes all the way to the final, I guess is my best guess that you can do. And I think they're going to, like we said, Tom was going to use this break on the Pride side. I fully imagine that Adrian will use this break on the Orlando City side to try to push through, retool, look at some different options. It's a huge break. It's a huge breather, an opportunity to just get people healthy and then see what components you can adjust. And you can make the major adjustments that people want to see and really try them out in training and see how it's going to look before you have to roll it out there.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all the questions. We're still going to do this show next week, even though there's not an Orlando City or Orlando Pride game during the weekend, because we will have Copa action. And I'm sure that you all will still have questions about these teams. So please continue to tweet at us. Tweet at OS Lions. We appreciate all the newcomers who joined us and all the people who have consistently watched the show. You can follow Alicia at OS Lions and at OS Alicia D on Twitter for all the latest updates. With Alicia DelGallo, I'm Iliana Limon-Romero, and thanks for joining us.